welcome to The Hearing. I'm John.
And from Chicago's North Side, I am Scotto.
And before we get to this week's album, just a few things to cover. First off, wanted to mention, since the year is rapidly coming to a close, that we will be switching to an every other week schedule next year. Um, it's just going to be a lot easier for us. We had to do it for a couple of months this year for scheduling reasons, and I just liked it a lot more. I won't have to edit in the middle of the night, and
And doing the two shows at the same time was kind of, yeah.
but there will still be an episode every week. It'll just be, instead of one on a Thursday and one on a Monday, it'll just be every Monday. I give Zombie Takeout, and I occasionally the TV show one week, the following week The Hearing, which is. But if you're listening to this, probably what you're more interested in. Also, archive.org has been back up for a couple of weeks. I'm doing that and YouTube now because our YouTube reviews got some good numbers. Now on to, of course, Spotify Wrapped. I'm sure you've all seen it everywhere. We're not going to bother with our top 5 songs this year because mine are all mine, like my own songs. I was going to do my 6 to 10, but then you mentioned that yours are all off of St. Vincent's new album.
I'm an album person,
Yeah.
so it's like this for me every year. If there's an album I've listened to, all of that, the top 5 is going to be in that album.
Right. So it's kind of pointless to get into our songs, but we'll go through our artists. You want to start?
Sure. Now, I'm giving honorable mentions to Metric and Open Mike Eagle. Probably they're my 6 and 7.
Okay, I'll do a couple honorable mentions too, which will springboard nicely into a bit of weirdness I noticed. Go ahead.
But my number 5 is Pearl Jam. They'd released the album Dark Matter this year, so that got a lot of listens. And my trip to Seattle, I listened to a lot of grunge.
Uh-huh.
So it was really interesting when they did this, when they broke the year down, when you were into different phases and stuff. They go, for May was your grunge phase. And it's like, yeah, it totally was. And it was, Pearl Jam, Pumpkins, Nirvana, Alice.
My number 5 is The Police. There's just a handful of songs of theirs that are in my heavy rotation. I'm a huge Stuart Copeland fan. I've realized I like them a lot more than I realized, and I already knew I was a big fan. I've recently been obsessing over Regatta de Blancans and Yada Mundada, both of which I didn't really know super well previously. Your number 4?
My number 4 is The Last Dinner Party.
Oh,
I'm sure
nice.
it's one of yours.
Uh-huh. I was hoping they would be my first, but we'll get to that. My number 4.
Technically, it was from an album that was released the year before, but it was
No,
new to us.
it was February.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Prelude to Ecstasy was February. My number 4 is St. Vincent.
Oh, cool. Wow. All right. So we have our.
And he's a bit lower on the list this year.
That is my number 2 artist, actually, even though all the songs on her album are the song list.
TLDP is my number 2. Number 3.
Number 3 is Peter Gabriel. His, IO is just a sublime album. It came out probably around December. Well, really, he did a song a month last year, and so the album was finally complete in December.
My number 3 is Fizz, another album I was just obsessed with this year.
That was pretty cool. I don't think I listened to it that much, but. Was that when we reviewed this year?
That was in the new artist, I think, quadrilogy, along with TLDP, Boy Genius, and Black Polish.
Wow. What a year this has been.
Oh, I forgot my honorable mentions. I do want to mention honorable mentions to Black Polish and The Call, which gets to the weirdness. I'll tangent into that before we get to our top 2.
Okay.
I was looking at my top 100 songs. Annie has like one in my top 50.
Really?
St. Vincent. For those who don't know, Annie Clark is her real name. Most of her fans tend to call her Annie. Whereas Black Polish had 2, The Call had 2 songs in my top 50. I think The Police had maybe 3, and they're beneath Annie. I think the only one in my top 50 of Annie's was Broken Man.
Hmm.
But yet she made my top 5 artists. It was odd. I'm really curious how they calculate all of that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to really add up if you put that list next to the artist list.
Right. Yeah, you noticed that too. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Anyway, number two,
Number two was Saint Vincent.
Danny. Right.
Hmm.
My number two is The Last Dinner Party. That album was a fucking revelation for me. I immediately became a huge fan. Spoilers for next week. And number one.
Number one, Serengeti.
Okay.
His latest chapter of the Kenny Dennis saga, Kenny Dennis 4, is just uh, it's the story is amazing. Like he leaves it at a real cliffhanger. I'm hoping that that's not the end of it. But really, of course, Serengeti releases so much other singles, and I was kind of listening to some of his early stuff throughout the earlier in the year too.
Mhm.
So it makes sense that just his volume of songs wouldn't crack the top five like St. Vincent's
Mhm.
songs, but highly recommend, of course, the whole Kenny Dennis saga, even though it's like 7 hours long at this point or something like that.
He
Um,
is one of those artists that you turned me on to due to this show that I really should check out more of. I really liked his stuff when we reviewed it.
Anders makes a return on this album too.
Mhm.
He's pretty much the whole narrator behind it, and I think it's you know, he pretty much gives you the whole story of what's been happening in his absence,
Mhm.
and leaves with like this weird
Mhm.
cliffhanger that hopefully gets resolved soon.
And my number one is me. I've said it before. I I write stuff the way I do because I like how it sounds. So of course I listen to a lot of my own music.
Did you send yourself a video message?
But I did get one from TLDP. It was just Abigail talking about playing Portrait of a Dead. Uh,
Yeah,
no,
yeah, I got
recording
that one.
Portrait of a Dead Girl. Because everybody was singing "Give Me the Strength."
I'd gotten that one too, and I got
Mhm.
something from Saint Vincent, and I think it was a special one about like you really listened to a lot kind of things. It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah, I kind of appreciated the fact with TLDP that they just took a clip from a random interview. And
yeah.
it wasn't kind of that awkward cameo shit.
Metric kind of was like that too, where it was just like a random interview about
Mhm.
writing a certain song.
Right. Um,
But I appreciated Saint Vincent's weird cameo kind of thing because I listened to the fuck out of that album. That I really enjoyed All Born Scream. I still do really. I listen to it a lot still.
I'm gonna give it a couple of months of distance, or a couple more months, and go back to it. I think I might appreciate it more. Um,
I feel it's one of those albums that really tells you about what's going on in the world and just the
mm,
whole feeling. It's about this, you know, society falling apart sort of
mm,
their deal. She was, of course, thinking about COVID times,
right,
but I feel like it really fits the
right,
present
yeah.
and what's going to happen next
Mm.
year all too well.
And I didn't set this up deliberately by having you go first, but having me go second gives me a very nice segue because I released a new single this week. It's called Ebb and Flow. Obviously, it's on Spotify and YouTube and all the places. A little bit different for me. It's in an odd meter, just three, but it was a nice challenge to write something in an odd meter. Um, and or at least to play in an odd meter because my percussive ukulele style does not lend itself to odd
Yeah,
meters. Lends itself to four much more easily, which is what I tend to do. And the vocal is a bit of a departure. I really
it
leaned.
is.
You did get a chance to check it out, okay?
Yes.
Um, I really leaned into the Corey Glover influence. Corey Glover from Living Color. Um, he's been one of my favorite singers since I first heard Vivid back in I think '86 when it was released, and I didn't think he influenced me, but judging from this song, he really did. Um, but yeah, I'm really happy with how this one turned out. One of my favorites of my own. Oh, incidentally, speaking of Evan Blow, I had a couple of people pull on me that silence bit I do fruit to you when you make a bad joke.
What?
So yesterday, last evening, I noticed on the YouTube app that I had 69 views on Ebb and Flow. So I took a screenshot with it compared to the previous two, um, and I made a joke. I said "nice" with a bunch of exclamation marks and marks, and then or exclamation points, and then I
Which one
said,
must do.
"Of course, I'm only referring to the fact that it has a lot more views than my previous two videos on YouTube." I wasn't talking about anything else. You didn't think I was talking about anything else, did you? Two people on Threads, two other songwriters or independent artists who I know on there, just liked the post and didn't comment on the joke at all. Nobody commented on the joke at all.
Man, tough room.
Anyway, finally on to this week's album, which is from 1988, Beelzebubba by the Dead Milkmen. The Dead Milkmen are an American comedy punk band who formed in Philly in 1983 and who are best known for their songs Bitchin' Camaro and Punk Rock Girl, the latter of which can be found on this week's album. Beelzebubba is the band's fourth album. It was released on May 1st, 1988 on Enigma Records, produced by Brian Beattie and Mike Stewart, and features Rodney Amadeus Anonymous on vocals, Jasper Thread on guitar, accordion, and vocals, Bucky Fellini on keyboards, Lord Maniac on bass and backing vocals, and Dean Clean on drums and backing vocals, with additional musicians Brian Beattie on accordion, Leanne Zimmers Cameron on mandolin, Carl Spann and John Bladell on horns, and Mark Williams and Susan Levez on strings. Reminder, I don't edit any songs into our reviews for copyright reasons, but on our blog at johnscotto.wordpress.com you'll find links to Beelzebubba on Spotify and YouTube, so you can follow along if you'd like. Track 1, Brat in the Frat. Interesting groove on this one. I like the mandolin, nice bass tone. It's basically punk polka.
Yeah, I only knew two songs of them going in. The two mentioned that, before this.
Right.
And I didn't realize they were a cowpunk band,
Yeah. I suggested them because I also was only really familiar with those two songs, and I'd heard a few in passing back in the day. But we knew a lot of people who were really into them. At
So,
least I
right.
did. They were
I,
very,
I,
very popular when we were in college, and so
I,
I kind of wanted to check them out. And I knew they were comedic, so I was curious how well the comedy had aged,
I
which we'll get into.
wasn't a big fan back in the day, and just the two songs. I kind of thought of them as, like a Dead Kennedy knockoff sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
But and then the first few notes of this was like, wait, it's cowpunk,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like this cowpunk polka. I mean, just an intro piece here with
Yeah.
some Dr. Seuss kind of lyrics that they just kind of spout over it. But I was kind of like, whoa, okay, this wasn't what I thought we were going to get into here.
Musically, I really like a lot of this.
Yeah.
The album in general.
Mm.
The lyrics, though, maybe I would have appreciated it in my 20s.
I don't know.
Speaking of which, track 2, RC's Mom. Great groove, love the bass tone. Lord Maniac, brilliant fucking bass player. Dean Clean, brilliant drummer. Love the funk guitar on this one. Love those horns that come in. Hate the fucking lyrics. Don't know who they're mocking. It's all about, I'm gonna go beat my wife.
I think they're mocking James Brown.
Okay.
I think this was back when he was kind of going through his angel dust thing,
Uh-huh.
and he did some jail time,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
so musically they're doing a James Brown parody, and he's
Brilliantly.
kind of doing a James Brown
Yeah.
impersonation.
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
But the last thing I was expecting after the cowpunk is some James Brown.
Right,
I was
right.
like, wait, what?
Like I said, musically, they're fucking brilliant.
Yes.
Track 3, Stewart. Like the groove. I'm just ignoring the vocals at this point. Love the melody on the guitar in the verse. Great build into that B section.
This is what I was expecting. It's pretty much, I feel like a Dead Kennedy's
Yeah,
imitation.
yeah.
But lyrically, actually, he nailed Alex Jones before Alex Jones.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Which I'm like, oh, this shouldn't be relevant today. It's about what was he rambling like what the
I'll say
homosexuals
it,
are
the
doing.
queers fucking with the soil.
Yes,
Uh,
I mean,
yeah.
this was just
It's from the
something that
perspective of a conspiracy, not.
it, like back then it was just someone living in a trailer park, and now it's somebody who makes
Well,
millions
although, the onion
and
to the
then
rescue.
loses millions.
Track 4, I Walk the Thinnest Line. Again, great groove, great bass. Like the harmonies, I want an instrumental version of this album. The guitar
I
solo
think
is a bit meandering, but I love all the dissonance in it.
I was this a Johnny Cash reference about walking the
Probably.
line?
Yeah.
It's kind of the first straight up punk song we've gotten. We're 4 tracks in. The one conclusion I really drew from this though is man, Blink 182 really ripped these guys off.
Yeah, yeah.
This
Wow.
could have easily just been a Blink 182 song.
Are they sort of the midpoint between DK and Blink?
Yes, easily.
That's interesting. Okay. Wow. Because I have a DK reference later in my notes, but because I caught that definitely. But
Oh, there's
Blink.
definitely other
Wow.
songs where you can tell the Dead Kennedys
Yeah,
influence
yeah.
on them
But
easily.
they were proto Blink. I mean, a few years, like maybe a
Yeah.
year or two before, because they Blink came
Now there
along
is
only a few years after this.
there's a huge difference, of course.
Hmm.
They weren't mellowing it to be commercial,
No,
obviously.
no,
They had zero commercial ambitions
no.
in this aside from maybe Punk Rock
One
Girl.
song.
That was like that's our single.
Yeah,
They weren't really thinking Smoking Banana Peels was gonna, actually get played anywhere.
it was like the Surfer's Pepper.
Yeah.
They knew that was going to get play, and like people were going to be shocked by the rest of the album. Same deal
Uh,
here.
Ironically, the Surfers are men I have in my notes later on.
Uh, Track 5, Sri Lanka Sex Hotel. Great bass line, great funk guitar, great groove. Like that sort of unsteady time in the chorus. I didn't expect it to get quiet and kind of Doors like.
It's this one's very interesting. It like the that bass thing is a very DK kind of intro,
Hmm.
and it goes into like this Tom Waits or Mojo Nixon kind of
Yeah.
sound. Musically, it reminds me a lot of Television.
Yeah, okay, I get that.
They had to have been a big influence on
Yeah.
these guys too, like
And
DK and Television.
that's a good point about DK because, and that's why I'm all keep pointing at the bass because Klaus Fluoride is one of my all-time favorites, and clearly Lord Maniac took a lot from him.
It's this one's really strange because like they mellowed out the Sex Pistols a bit
Mhm.
because like the it's like a mashup of Sex Pistols lyrics with Television's music.
Uh-huh.
And who saw a false ending coming, you know?
Yeah. Also, like that extra kind of melodic percussion before they go back into the verse section.
Yeah. We've heard so many serious artists
Mhm.
do so much less with their work than what these guys
Yeah.
have done musically
I,
on this album.
I just, the humor is the only thing that ruins it for me.
Yeah.
If it
The
wasn't for the sophomore humor, I'd be in love with this.
the humor is kind of hard to take in. So, sometimes it was even hard to find like what kind of joke were they really going for here?
Uh, a lot of it is just shock value.
Yeah.
Track 6, Bad Party. Good groove, great bass tone. Like the mix of guitar and keys. Keys don't pop up a lot, but they use them very nicely when they do pop up.
Yeah, like when you start getting like a violin and shit, you're
Mhm.
just like, wait, what? The strings come in, you're like, what's going on? Um, I think, and I could be crazy on this, but they're kind of parodying Marvin Gaye's "Gotta Give It Up"
Okay, I can see it.
because, like, the beginning, you kind of hear that party, like, sounds going on, and then it kind of kicks in, and it's about his experience going to the party.
Hmm.
Only it's going to a shitty party.
Right.
Uh, Melody kind of also reminds me of Black Flag.
Yeah. And
You know, where
TV
he's
Party
got that,
would make sense as
yes,
a
where he's
reference.
got that kind of staccato delivery to it.
Yeah.
So it's I I don't know if that's really what they were doing here, and I think it could be combining Black Flag with Marvin Gaye.
Wow. Yeah.
It's fucking brilliant.
Hmm.
But who knows if that's if that was just me
Right.
picking these things up.
Uh,
But it sure as hell sounded like that to me.
Track 7, Punk Rock Girl. Are you taking the Coward's Way Out?
No, no.
Neither am I.
And now that I listen to this, you know, like cowpunk just seems so obvious now. How did I miss it? I probably
Mhm.
didn't know the existence of
Right.
cowpunk until
Yeah.
um, probably into the early
Yeah,
2000s.
and this album was a few years earlier than I thought it was. I
Oh
thought this
yeah,
came out when we were in college. It was actually 88. I was still in high school.
yeah.
We both were. Um, love the opening riff on this one. Good groove. Like the melody, which is something I did not expect to say about this album. Great gang vocals. Like that spoken bridge about was it Philly Pizza Company and Mojo? It was not Mojo Nixon. The Beach Boys song on the jukebox and all of that.
Oh
Songs
yeah, but it's
lyrics from
California Dreaming.
Mhm. Lyrics from this song randomly pop into my head at times, particularly the bridge.
It's kind of a take on those old country or western ballads, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah,
just kind of, you know, what I went out with my girl on a date kind of thing, only it's about, you know, being punk
yeah,
rockers. And of course, points for the Mojo Nixon
yeah, of
reference.
course. Track 8, Bleach Boys. Like the groove, bass and the guitar parts, of course. Kind of reminds me of Ren and Stimpy music.
And this was a few years before Ren and Stimpy, of
Hmm.
course. I can't believe they got away with this. Humor wise.
But it's kind of like Jello without the point.
Yes.
Jello
They
Biafra from Dead Kennedys.
yeah. They they were just doing that rockabilly sound, but the yeah. It's you know, I guess maybe trying to encourage frat boys to kill
Because Jello is
themselves.
super fucking sarcastic and very
Yeah,
humorous at points, but he always had a point to it.
he did. There was always something lying underneath, and these guys were just doing this for the fuck of it. But
Also,
yeah,
also like the guitar solo on this one.
tip of the cap though for actually getting away with
Yeah.
singing about drinking bleach. It kind of reminds me of I guess another Philadelphia area artist. Didn't think I didn't ever realize these guys were from Philadelphia
Uh,
or that area. The the Bloodhound Gang, where you know
yeah,
they.
yeah.
I hope you misinterpret what I say.
Hmm.
Take this the wrong way, you know, kind of do it. Just do
And
it.
and they came along quite a bit later, if I recall, like
Oh yeah,
towards the
like
mid to
10
late
years.
'90s.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe an influence, at least comedically speaking,
definitely.
musically not, of course. Track 9, My Many Smells. Great bass part, great guitar part, love the groove. Like the vocal delivery on this one. Good harmonies in the chorus, good gang vocals in the bridge.
I would
I
like to pat myself on the back for picking up the Who reference
Yeah, I
even
did get a
before
kick out of the Tommy reference.
they did the direct Tommy reference. I was like, this is a classic rock sound, and like, I want to say the Who, but that would be crazy. And then they actually did the Tommy reference. I was like, no fucking way.
This is the point where I almost tapped on this album,
Oh
but
yeah.
we had so much to talk about at the top of the hearing, and I knew if I tapped, there really wasn't much of a point to doing the hearing, so I powered through and got to track 10, Smoking Banana Peels, which is my favorite.
Humor wise, my many smells kind of I would say is probably at their higher end actually.
Yeah, yeah. I will say I think the humor kind of grew on me at this point. On the Smoking Banana Peels, love the bass line. The tone and panning are a little weird though. I do like that little off kilter riff before the vocals come in, I like the call and response with the distorted vocals. Oh, I'm gonna take back the favorite. I changed it to a later song. I forgot. I just forgot to take it off of this one. Um,
I'm keeping it for this. This is definitely my pick for strongest. They are I mean, it's psychedelic, it's prog, it's punk,
yeah,
it's everything together. I mean, so many different sections.
yeah. Great instrumental breaks. I like the sung part in the middle and a great scream after that.
I mean, there was a joke from a DJ that I'll just refer to as Ken of Point Pleasant.
Mhm.
Um, who had about smoking banana peels.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, oh, now I get the joke. It's kind of like the encounter at Farpoint
Well, no, that
38
was a
years,
thing.
32 years later.
I mean, he didn't invent that. And he did not, or I should say, he didn't get that necessarily from Dead Milkmen. All of my siblings are boomers. They were hippies, or not hippies, but in the '70s version.
Yeah.
Um, and they have experience. More than one of them have experience with banana peels. I'll put it that way. It was a thing.
But I mean, would Kenneth Point Pleasant have I mean, I guess he did that on his own, huh?
Yeah. This is a person who kind of Point Pleasant did anything to get high. Including putting toothpaste on rolling papers, putting out a cigarette and smoking it. Do not do that. He got violently ill.
Yes, toothpaste is very dangerous, actually.
Track 11, the guitar song, of course, makes me think of TMVG's The Guitar. Like the chord changes, nice mix between guitar and bass. There's a line about listening to the sound coming out of the hole in the wood.
Yes.
I just have to be pedantic and say that most of the sound of an acoustic instrument is not coming out of the hole. It's bouncing off of the soundboard of the top of the instrument. The hole is just there to allow the top to move more freely. Some of the sound waves do go into the hole and bounce around and come back out, but the majority of what you're hearing is just bouncing off of the top.
Now it was a nice surprise to hear a ballad and one that built, but this got old after a few listens.
Uh-huh. I do like when the drums come in verse 2. And there's a good guitar solo. This is where I have the line about the humor starting to grow on me. Track 12, Born to Love Volcanoes. Good punk groove. Keys are a nice contrast on this one. Nice mix of guitar sounds, great harmonies in the chorus, and the violin solo was a massive surprise.
Yes. Other than that, it's pretty much a Mojo Nixon knockoff, I would say. But yeah, the strings are just like, wait, what? Lyrically, this probably makes the least sense of the whole album, I would say.
Someone who loves volcanoes and got his love of volcanoes from PBS, and then there's a conspiracy rant somehow.
But it's like they don't like PBS, or they in character not liking PBS. It's really hard to tell what he's going for here. Because he's comparing, they're always asking for my money, PBS.
Yeah.
Should I be giving it to like these other more charitable things? But maybe the teen doesn't get pregnant if they're at home watching shows about volcanoes, and you would help fund that. But I think I'm asking too much out of this.
Track 13, everybody's got nice stuff, but me. Nice transition into this one. It just flows nice and smooth from the last one. Good groove, like the doubled vocal an octave down. Somebody's got a very deep voice, or it was affected. I don't know which. Love the guitar part in the verse. The guitar part in the chorus reminds me a lot of REM.
This is very similar to Butthole Surfer's Colored FBI Guy, which came out just a little after this.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be that crazy to think that the Butthole Surfers would copy another artist, as they pretty much did with their big hit and Beck.
And there's a lot of similarities between the two, Butthole Surfers and Dead Milkmen, because they're another case where musically they're really talented.
Yes.
And then they've just got this bizarre vocalist just ranting over everything. And occasionally singing. Gibby actually has a decent voice when he wants to sing.
And they lyrically, he makes even less sense than the Milkmen.
Yeah. And I think that's why I tend to prefer Butthole Surfers a bit.
Yes.
Because it's just weird. It's not just like sophomore ranting.
There isn't a point, I mean, here there's a point that you don't quite get what he's trying to get to. But for the Surfers, it's just the point is that he's a fucking weird guy.
Yeah.
That's it. They're fucking weirdos.
Take like a really good, versatile, bar band and just pull a drunk out of the audience and have him rant on the mic.
Somebody,
and that's
someone who's dropped a lot of acid, probably.
Yeah. Fair point. Track 14, I Against Osborne. This is my favorite. Great punk groove. I like the guitar sound. I think it's probably got the most sensible lyrics. Didn't expect the slower section. That was a nice surprise.
They always surprise you. Like
Yeah.
because lyrically, they're phoning it in, but yeah, musically, like wait, there's sections, there's breakdowns.
And I kind of like that everything sounds out of tune in that part.
I'd say this is another Dead Kennedys
Yeah.
homage.
Mhm.
I won't use knockoff again.
Uh,
It's more of what I was expecting, though.
Track 15, Howard Beware. Like those stabs at the beginning. It's got a good cowpunk groove, a nice harmony in the chorus. Love the bass solo, obviously. Love those stabs over the fast drums.
Love the creepy backing vocals.
Mhm.
And is there a drum solo in this?
Well, he's just kind of doing this long kind of roll while they're
Okay.
hitting these stabs over it. And they're kind of the guitarist kind of does this repeated figure while the bass player and trades off with the bass player who's like taking little solos.
Huh. Yeah, definitely full of surprises,
Yeah,
these guys.
they kind of show off musically, which is nice.
Yeah.
Track 16, Ringo buys a rifle, and yes, it's about that Ringo. Great groove, great guitar tone. I'm not sure why the vocal is panned right a little bit, but I do like the staccato vocals in the chorus.
Probably the heaviest song on the album.
Mm.
And they almost have a catchy chorus, but it's like they purposely made it too wordy to be catchy.
Yeah.
And slowed it down from the heaviness of the verses to make this contrast. It's so they are suggesting that Ringo would want to get his revenge on the other Beatles.
Yeah.
Is that what they're going to get with this?
Yeah. Ringo's going to get a rifle and shoot them, particularly Paul, you mentioned. Later.
Yes, I don't know.
I mean,
Which,
Ringo was the one who was shed on the most, arguably.
The more you think about it, that is funny.
Yeah.
That's a connection there.
And finally, track 17, Life is Shit. Like the verse riff, the organ in the pre-chorus and chorus is a nice touch. The harmony in the chorus is funny.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd say that about harmony.
Right.
There's a Bob Crane reference, which is always a good thing.
I'm not sure I get the Bob Crane reference. I mean,
I don't know, it was just random. Didn't he die in a really scandalous way? I'm blanking on it right now, but I think
from what I understand, he carried on with a lot of different women, and I think he even made movies of them for private movies. But I think he did that with somebody's wife.
Oh, okay, and he was killed for it.
But from what I understand, I don't think they ever solved his murder. If I'm thinking right,
Okay.
now I have to look it up.
But yeah,
it was
also
just like a mysterious thing that happened.
Great gang vocals in that last chorus. I did not need RC's mom to come back at the end. I'm guessing that was a hidden track on the actual original release.
That's my guess. This is 1988. The CD's just
there was like 20 seconds of silence before it got there.
But yeah, the Bob Crane's murder has never been solved.
Okay.
It happened in 78.
So do you recommend it?
I would. It's 80s punk is a real, mixed bag, and just don't pay too much attention to the vocals, and the music is definitely worth the admission here.
Yeah, I changed my mind. Initially, I wasn't going to recommend it, but yeah, I'm going to recommend it now because musically it's brilliant, and it's an experience to hear this great band going off while this lunatic rants and tries to make shocking sophomore jokes.
But combining Marvin Gaye and Black Flag could be one of the craziest things I've ever heard.
And that's it for the Dead Milkmen. And that's it for Beelzebubba. I usually give the album name there. Until next time, when we'll be ending the year with our best list. I don't have a worst list this year. Well, no, we normally don't do that for the hearing because we pick the albums with our top 10 of the year. And when we'll be reviewing The Sane Asylum by Blind Illusion. This is the band that Les Claypool and Larry Lewan from Primus were in before Primus.
Nice.
and they were thrash.
That
So lesson learned playing thrash.
that's been a while since we've done any less. We've never done Primus, I don't
No,
think.
we haven't. I was thinking about that when I was listening to this album. You need to pick a Primus album because you know them a
Yeah,
lot better than I do. Anyway, until then, of course, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life,
there
there
you
you are.
are.